I was thinking like blackout of the nasty 666 programming's running through the grid, and then I remember you said about the computer. And what does it run really? Is it connected to heavy electricals? Anyway, if there's any weird stuff that pops up, no, it's not because of anything we did. We just took the opportunity to use the flow that was coming in to get ourselves into a place where we can begin the healing process for ourselves. But this is activating. It will disengage this part and take part of that back and turn it back around, because now it is able to open what are called the 4 crystal hearts of Aquiel. And we've got one that is in Dublin area, and I have a feeling it's connected to the Island stuff that we were into before, the Natural 11 temples. We have one in some part of London, and we've got this one that connects to, this one is called Shala 3. So the gate that is opening here, literally right off your coast, they said it's not even a mile into the water of the North Sea, like directly from, if you could, they will give us closer maps if we need them, but they said it has about a 50-mile core parameter anyway, once it's fully activated, so it's a big space. You don't have to go pinpointing it down to microns or anything like that. But this one is activating, and it connects directly into Shala 3, which is the 3 gate of Ascension Earth in the Aquiel matrix. So you will be one of the first groups to begin getting first the very quiet visitations by the groups called the Aquaferi. And the Aquaferi are a race line that were created on the Ascension Earth domains from the Jeshua line. They were, I believe, the ones that were the 7th children of the 7 families, and the ones that were the number 1 children, like the firstborn, were here, and then 7s were there. And they're actually are direct, just like we're direct descendants, a lot of us, from the Jeshua 12 line. They carry the original codes of the crystal, the keepers of the crystal core. This means we have the codes to be able to, now that we can get into it without tripping over the beast, we can open the Shala 13 core gate. And that will allow for all sorts of other opportunities that I'm sure we'll find out about as we progress with this work. But I wanted you to be able to see that we didn't know anything about this when we came. We had no idea why we had to go to Amsterdam, but we were invited here and we knew we were supposed to go, so now we know why. But what is nice is this is being disengaged. The most they can do for the moment is plug them into each other, and that's not going to triangulate, and that shuts down most of the power, because it's actually a triangle grid, and I've seen it someplace where somebody has it drawn out as like triangles all over, like running the maps of the planet, and it's somebody in Europe that did it. A group of Russian scientists did it. They were actually drawing it out. It's actually the 666 network that they were showing on the planet. I don't have a copy of that, and I just remember seeing it and going, oh, look at that. It's like triangles all over the place, just all interconnected triangles, kind of like lizard skin or snake skin. It's the skin of the snake, literally. The golden serpent that's connected to the caduceus, the double-headed snake. Anyway, this is what this network is opening now, and this will be able to use portions of what were the net controllers to actually get control of portions of the net and create safe zones within the hibernation zones as well. Because the portions that we control, we can't roll them back, or you can't just roll these nets or it will create pole shift. You can't make them roll fast in any direction. But we can put a buffer field in where part of the ones who are trapped, there are people, there are Christic races that are trapped in the hibernation zone still. We can actually give them escape places where they can come down here, and then be able to do enough ascension training and bioregenesis to get themselves out the way of the way of the Christ. So it's a big project we're in the middle of. I just want to let you know that this is happening in your country, in your neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in this beauty. Would you be mine? There's Mr. Rogers. If people here might not know that, but I remember the Mr. Rogers song from when Katie was very small. Next one, please. This will be. Will be. Notice the words will be. Almost legible. This is the beginnings of tracing the J12 line. All right, down from J12, and where his first. There were 6 other lines that they're not the ones that were the keepers of the crystal of the crystal core of the Shala 13 core gates. All right, this is the line of those that had come through one daughter who was named after the matrix that she was actually partially raised in, and then she was brought all the way over to the natural Andromeda system to get the codes there, and then she was brought back to Earth at age 12 and raised here. She was brought back through Span 7 Gate, which is over in Arizona, and she was raised there among what were the descendants of some of our Aquari guys that came up from Corral that were the original Navajo tribes, and they started down in the Phoenix area, even though their legends right now tell them they were from further up north. Their grids were there and going down to Corral. So she was brought in there with two guardians, and neither of her guardians were Jeshua. She was brought in. The two guardians had agreed to take care of her, and all of the couplings with the children where children were made and left here, they were made with a couple. This one, because she was quite special, you had to have a certain, say, level of security clearance, and he had a brother. His name was Samuel, and Samuel and Miriam were appointed to take the child once it was time to bring her back here and kind of hang out with her, but like let her integrate into the native tribe. So they all lived there for a while over in where we're living now. And there was a line that started. Aquiel, who was the daughter of Jeshua, had a set of twins. One was a boy and one was a girl. The male twin of Aquiel, all right, which was Jethro's grandson, and they are getting into like what type of skin color, hair color, eye color-ish, so you get an idea of what type of gene line it came up to be here. I'm not even going to try to read the small print, but first there was a set of twins, one male, one female. This became very consistent through a lot of this, where you would see the male-female twins happening a lot. This one was, let's see if I can read my writing. Okay, this one, the girl, the female twin of Aquiel, she was raised among the people where she was born, which was with where her mom was, Aquiel, and that was the Navajo reservations that weren't reservations, they were Navajo lands at the time. And she was the one that became known in their legends as White Buffalo Woman. And that was a Navajo legend first, not a Lakota legend first. And there was all sorts of prophecy and symbology associated with it. And that symbology was from this time period where she was brought in. This was about 51 AD. That was a long time ago. Now, Aquiel herself was born in 27 AD. All right, and that, she was born in 27 AD, a gestation cycle. After, it was still in the same year, but he had left earlier, and she was born later, and they'd brought her up to have her born in the other places, even though she was conceived here. So when she was 12, she was brought back down. So we're getting the dates as far as when, who moved where when. Over here, with the male twin of Aquiel, which would be J12's grandson. This one, he was taken as an infant, I believe. He was taken to Asé-Leon, which was the A2 platform. Now, Asé-Leon, again, is in the Aquiel matrix. So he was taken there, and what they were taken there and trained, as far as what to do and what their mission was and those kind of things, because they had agreed to come in as the people they came in as. And they birthed till age 12, and again at age 12 in 63 AD, this child, here we go, was the age 12, J12's grandson. He was known as the White Navajo because he had very pale hair and light eyes and light skin. So he kind of stood out like a sore thumb over in the Navajo lands. I know that feeling. I remember being an albino once, among very tan-skinned and black-haired people who thought I was like the devil because I was white and glowing and turned red in the sun. Yeah, that was my life as Miriam. Anyway, so we have the White Navajo. He was the boy, and in 63 AD he was returned to the last outpost of Lojas, Atlantis, and that was here. That was what is the area that is now called Amsterdam in particular, which is now part of Holland. But this is the area that child was returned to, the male twin. So these each went down to make another line of individuals. This one, she had, over in America, she had, I believe, a boy. When she was 22, she birthed a male, and just a single one, though not a twin, just a male. And at a certain point, these groups were raided, and the child was killed. And I believe she was either taken back. We got killed, I think, in this period too. Over here, Samuel and Miriam and a few other of us that were over here. Talk about a long way from what you thought was home, right? But we knew we were a long way from home anyway. Just like being in Israel, it wasn't that big a deal. It was still a long way from home. But this line stopped, and at age 12, he was killed. That was in 85 AD, and it just ended that line. So this left only one line left, and that was the one that had come out of the boy that had been brought here. And this is the line that stayed in Holland for quite a while. At one point, there were another set of twins born here, another set of male and female twins, and of these, there were the 7 sons, but sons with not with an O, sons with a U, the 7 son families, because these were the sons of Jeshua 12, meaning they could activate their sun fields. These were the keepers of the crystal core that had the codes all the way back from seeding 1 that linked into various other places we're just going to learn about. But they started here with the first 7 son family lines, and these are like the dates when they started. Say like when a male was born at this time, female was born at that time. They're not given the whole thing like born dead here, because we'll have tomes like 5 million miles thick by the time we get done with this. But these 7 sons, all right, son families, that one was created from the female twin of who was J12's great granddaughter, all right? And, these are albino as well. They were albino twins, and one was male and one was female. So there was an albino line that started to run down here, but that wasn't the only thing they had. But they created the 7 families, and there were more, and this was like the order that they were created in, the numbers you see there. And then each of those 7 families, they had agreed to a host regenesis. They knew what they were here for, and they had agreed to this, knowing it would be a sad experience to go through. But because of trying to clear some of the distortions out of the gene line in order to be able to activate the core crystal codes, that they knew that the way the genetics worked, that only the first child and the 7th child would even survive. The others would be, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, it's the aging disease, progeria, that one. That gene was actually came from here, and it had to do, and there were some albino strains that came from there that didn't necessarily have that problem. But all of the children died, and they knew they would when they were born. They knew they were coming in just to be able to process certain things out of the gene code. So by the time the first one it wouldn't show up in, it would hit the second child. And so they came in specifically with a choice, actually, in that time of accepting that it was an acceleration of the entire body mechanisms. It allowed them to do some pretty special things while they were here, but it also accelerated their body's susceptibility to the mess and electromagnetic fields that are here, so it accelerated the burnout of the systems. But they didn't want to create gene lines from themselves anyway. They came to literally transmute that part of that gene code, to progressively get it so you could have one that could survive on its own, and you could have another one that was progressively, as they purged it out, each child that was born until you got to the 7th. The 7th one would have the full spectrum of codes, and those 7th children of each of the 7 sons, the 7 sons of the 7 sons, were brought back into the Aquiel matrix, and there was a race line of them created there called the Aquafari. And the Aquafairy are our kin, and they're not fairy, well, they kind of are. There's some of them that look fairy, they're smaller. There's some of them that are much bigger than us, so we look like the fairies. But it's a particular line of Aquari, human, angelic human, that comes directly from the line. It was created in this period from combining with other ones in the edons of both the aqueous matrix and the Aquiel matrix, and bringing that code in here. They hold some kind of very special surprise for us that helps. I know one thing, if we can't get our bodies out, we can do a direct, just get as much of your spirit out as you can if your body's going to die. Some people will be able to transmute it, some people just won't have enough time to transmute the body fast enough. And if you don't, that's okay. If you can't take it with you, learn how to gently leave it when it's time, under natural circumstances. Well, death isn't a natural circumstance, but under whatever would be your natural time. There are ways, and eventually they will show us what ways to use to, if you know anyone that's like passing or whatever, and they're not about to go teach them about black holes and things right now, they're troubled enough. There are simple things that you can do to bardo properly and get as much of yourself out as possible. And these would be the next race lines that are already in two places. They have them in the Aquiel matrix, and they would be the ones that have a little bit lower BPR, so you could incarnate into them if you still had a lot more work that had to be done in your gene code to get your BPR up, so where you could clear the distortions. And then there are those that are all the way over already in the M31 matrix. So they are our host race for those who can't bring the bodies out. They will also be one of our first greeting committees when we do finally make it to slide. And they will look a lot like we do. Some of our own selves are there. All right, we have, just like I've said before, we have a minimum of 1,728 cells, and that's if you're not an indigo. And if you're an Aquari indigo, I have no idea how many cells we got roaming around out there. But I do know I have a self named Azara on Eartha. I know that Az has a self named Az on Eartha as well. And yeah, and they're us. We're kind of like, we know we're them, and we focus here in order to do the part of our job that needs to be done here, that kind of thing. So you may very well find that you already have cells there, and it would be really neat to be able to bring yourself through with this body, heal this body, bring it through, and then meet the rest of you when you're over there. I would love to have that experience. So anyway, I wanted to let you know about the Joshua 12 line. There's only a couple more left, and then I will stop. Okay? Okay, just put them up fast, and I'll see if we need to do them, because I could spend 3 hours on 6, and I don't want to do that. Oh dear, I am keeping you up late. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. This is just to show you where your friends are, okay? All right, if this is our Akasha Ea, right? We have, here is our matrix, which means here is this would be the M31 and what they call Andromeda Galaxy, and we're that little tilted mess called the Milky Way Galaxy over here, but this is our home Akasha system. This is our Akasha system, and this is our Akasha A, right? Over here is a matrix that fell, that was in our parallel Akasha. It wasn't our Akasha, but it was parallel. It started trouble. This happened 450 billion years ago, and between 480 and 450 billion years ago. That was before the Milky Way fell. That was part of the problem of what contributed to that fall. But it tapped into our Eka, because we're very close proximity to each other. It tapped into our Eka and made a wormhole in there, and that started a whole bunch of mess that ended up with the falling of what's called the part of the Weaselay matrix. The Weaselay matrix is over here. This is considered the adjacent Akasha matrix. It's actually way over in a whole different Akasha A. And they have a parallel. And this parallel, and this is why they haven't gone into full fall, like our system is going to lose its 4 little balls. Right? Our prime light fields are going to go with it on the Ettore side. The Ettore side is actually going to host out. But these guys were lucky because they were right next door to what's considered a control matrix, and not control in the way that it's dominating or anything. It's a crystal matrix that's made it all the way through a full Adashi cycle, and in certain clusters there will always be at least one in case stuff like this happens. So there is one that is strong enough and can run enough frequency to try to host the others out, so you don't have mass falls occurring all over the place. And I don't know how long ago the Aquari matrix and the people within it went into their Christ state, but they came back and they still hold the human-like form. The human-like form, the prototype for this image, well, not exactly this one. It's larger and has 6 fingers and toes and like larger eyes, and just we look different when we're whole. Right now, a lot of what we look like has to do with our mutation. But the original prototype for the hominid with the nice bone structure and hair and things like that came from that matrix. So this is where the Anson-Stacia passage actually runs through and holds a host open, to hold open through various gate systems like the ones that we just showed you about the Aquiel matrix, to hold open the Earth's prana seed so it doesn't follow the sun's right now, so we can still hold the gates open long enough to begin making the slides out of here. And they're not going to happen overnight. We got to build up the genetic ability to do a physical slide in the first part of the journey. So one of the things our work is going to focus on is progressively getting possibly even easier to use journeys. These are like, we're telling a lot of detail. I'd like to just get some meditation journeys out there because it will do the same thing, but it does help to be able to know consciously what you're journeying to. So anyway, I just wanted to know who your friends are, and there's a whole history that goes with this. We're so tired of history. Somebody will just like write the history book and put that over here. And then anybody that wants to know the history can go look up the history. But the other stuff, it's the ascension stuff that's the exciting stuff. Even if we weren't in a fall system, it's still exciting. You know, we're not alone in the universe. You know, and we're loved. And God's alive. Right? There's like little things like that could really make your day down here. This is just showing you what this mutation does to what was the natural birthday charts, right? It throws the alignments all off at that 23.5 degree angle, and it creates what is called the sextant. Now, I don't have a really good drawing of this, but it completely changes stuff that's supposed to happen at certain ages, and it creates what is a reversal at specific ages, where you can only get a portion of the light field into matter, and you can't connect the spirit body to it because it just regurgitates itself through the yin-yang pattern and the tube torus structure. Next one, please. This is a messy version of what the birthday chart on the Metatronic scale looks like, where you come out and you've already been hit because you get whacked while you're already in the womb, and in fact the sperm has a problem to start with. So you begin to get in trouble right there, right, as soon as fertilization occurs. But you can limp your way through still growing a spiritual body and, you know, and a matter body. And when you get to here, you get the double whammy where what should be in your tailbone ends up in your head. And right. I won't even go there. Actually, there's a funny expression I've heard in Europe, but I'm not going there. I think I did in the last time I said this, the last workshop. But you come out and you go through, you know, the cycles, and then you go all through the cycle. You get up to where you should be able to do a leap, right, where you do the BPR leap and then shift up into the frequency processing and accretion of the next cycle. When you get to that leap point, it turns you back around, and it sends you backward on the next ring out, which means at a higher rate of pulsation, but you didn't gain any energy. All right? So it's actually expediting the process of draining the quantum of energy that did manage to get into your body for the fetal integration process. You have several cycles of that where you come right here, you're supposed to be able to leap and keep going forward. They move you backward in time. And then it comes back around here. So you're actually going backward, right? You're not integrating spirit or anything. You're not moving forward and getting more accretion in, which allows the iridonis to pull in, which allows you to pull. Is you're moving forward, but you're still moving backward toward the center point of creation. This turns you right around where you're staring it in the face, but off at an angle, and you can't bring in the frequencies. It blocks the iridonis body that is still facing the right direction. It puts you face to face with the iridonis body, which means it creates a polarity division between you and the natural iridonis frequencies that could be your salvation. There are certain things that have to be done in the grids here before the iridonis can be opened. Thankfully, they have been, and that's why we have those technologies, because they're going to progressively get this out of here. When you have this problem happening, this is called the labyrinth, because you walk it, and then you go boink and turn around and walk it the other way, and then you get to here and you go boink and turn around and walk it the other way, and walk it the other way, until you're so bloody tired of walking you can't walk anymore. And your cells feel the same way, because they burn out. And at a certain point, you spiral back down to the base pulse rhythm that was the original, the lowest point that you entered at fetal integration. And this process progressively kills the body. It actually drains, it uses the body as a vehicle to suck energy off other things around it, and then take that energy out of the body and put it elsewhere. Guess where? Prosiac. And they have, this is plugged into our system through mutations that affect the things that we talked about that were called the celestialine suns, those levels in our bodies that separate the densities and the time cycles. Can we go to the next one, please? Oh yeah, it creates this. Before we get to celestialine suns, this is what it creates. Where we're supposed to be able to have our iridonis behind us. It's facing in the same direction as we are. That's why, angular rotation and particle spin-wise, we should be able to merge with each other, and that's the natural process of the iridonis coming in and re-spiritualizing the first part of the matter body so it can then connect through the center with its adjugate twin. Instead, we're staring it in the face off at an angle. What that does is completely twist the natural shield clock. And look at this. This this is a good bite, right? This is coming out of one of the, I will never publish this one because I didn't draw this one. I may draw a version of it and publish it, but I didn't draw this one, didn't have time. This was taken out of one of the training manuals of Alpha Omega Order, Melchizedek training course that is out there. And they were showing you how to align with the gold cosmic realm and white light of God behind you. Well, right now, it isn't exactly white. And it isn't very cosmic either. This is the deception parts. I mean, space-time continuum. Oh, big word, just. Expanding infinity, or infinitely. Yes, black hole expanding behind you, right? And there are little notes here, like, have them compress it up against their back and feel it. Oh yeah, get it nice and friendly. Jeez, you're dwelling on it. They call it the timekeeper, the 666 timekeeper that is at the gate to spirit, and it allows for direct field co-joining by fallen angelics. This is how they get into our bodies, get at our bodies, how they hang out in overshadow and whisper in our minds where we think it's us that's whispering, where they can give us emotional impulses and make us feel things by controlling our chemicals to a degree, and where they can body snatch if they really want to and want to be bothered. So this is going to go. All right, with the clearing of the 666 seals and matrices, that is going to change. We're going to turn back around into the natural order so we can do the adjugate bonding first with the iridonis, and that's what we're starting. The resurrection technologies, you're resurrecting the original core divine blueprint as it is held in the natural spirit body Akashic record. And that can't be done while you're standing at that angle to your iridonis, which means your atoms are at that angle to each other. The iridonis atoms and the atoms that your bodies are made of here are not, there's an electrical field that's pushing them away from each other. So the technologies that we are working with are meant to turn that back around. The aurora field allows for it, because the aurora field can make the difference, where it can actually spin a portion, enough of our own body structure, to where we can do the bond, even though, yes, we're still standing there and we still got Shadow Man behind us. We still, and it's not a shadow either, it's different than what we talked about before. The shadow is just associated with phantom, which was semi-fall. This goes right in to the core, the Sagittarius A stuff, and down into the Abaddon stuff. This is the demon over your shoulder. But the aurora field, or the Aquail gates, can run their frequencies in, and they can rotate things that will allow the rotation of our angular rotation and particle spin enough so we can progressively bring the iridonis back in. It will progressively begin the process of turning us back around into the natural space we're supposed to be in. Next one, please, as far as our projection vector. And see why they had to explain about projection vectors? They had to explain about the structure of the cosmos and of your spirit body, or you never understand this stuff. You could just put, oh, cosmic light of God, rub up against it behind you, and people will believe you, but this showed you the difference. We wouldn't have been able to show the difference in this, and this is one of the real killers here, if they hadn't taken the time to show us the structure. And I'm glad you've taken the time to learn it. It also creates, that messy structure there, also creates this effect. This is a harness. It's an electromagnetic harness that has the yin-yang polarization of currents that shouldn't be running that way at all. They should be running in the natural yan-yun order, and there's a whole bunch of currents that are perverted and twisted because of this, but it creates this containment field. And this is the joy of the height of achievement of the golden serpent spiral or the Fibonacci spiral, where it can keep this going forever as long as you can suck energy out of something and keep it spinning, this, which is in the center. And it is a containment field. Not only does our planet have a net and sets of nets around it, our bodies literally do. The nets are around it and running in it. What that does to this is make a total mess. This is the axiotonal line chart from the Cathara 1 program. This is the state our axiotonal lines have been in for a very long time. The numbering was correct on them. You see where there's different things. Some of these points are normal, some are not. What is not normal at all is the numbering sequence. Because of this, it splits the shield. Just like that time clock, the birthday chart's supposed to look a certain way, right? And when you put the interface of that twisted grid set over it, with the 23.5 degree shift, it changes it. And it also has changed numbers and relationships. It's made subjugate twins out of one natural Atori current. It's bent half of it around, twisted it to make a facsimile of an adjugate that is called a subjugate, so they can have a similar type of finite light phasing, a Biveka light phasing, and this is all the stuff of the this is all that Metatronic code stuff is all built on this. But this is one of the things that will begin to change too, and it will change back to its natural structure. We are just learning about its natural structure. They haven't given me the full numbering sequence yet. I have to, actually they have, I just have to analyze it because there's 4 different levels of shield or 5 different levels of shield that I have to plug the lines in and see where it twists and where it runs, and naturally. But it is going to open up the new, right now you'll notice these are all kind of like pulled in and they're quite compacted around ankles and knees. Yes, I know, ouch. Right? Yeah, like currents are trying to run through and the knees are going, no, can't do it. Just open up. I have these relationships with the lower parts especially. But the next one, please. I think that's the one that will show where it's aiming, where it's going. Nope, it's not showing it yet. Let's put that one aside. That is an important one, but I would like to put the one that's the other axiotonal one on. This is the beginning of where it's going. Notice they're all open flow. All right. You would still have the lotus points, but lotus points don't grab them as if they're putting tape around them. All right, they were all constricted at the various points. So it opens up the flows, and they literally spread out inside of the body. And you will have the full set of 12 Olurian chamber flows will be going through the axiotonal lines, because it is the frequencies of the iridonis that are actually supposed to run the axiotonal lines, and the frequencies of the light body are supposed to run the top, from the top down, the electricals. So they actually come up with the magnetics, the iridonis lines, the natural ones. The spirit body interfaces come up that way, and the electricals of the light body come down. And what they have is same spin spiral sets of phase-locked Merkabas that are running the false axiotonal line alignments that literally just keep the body ensnared until they suck it dry, and then the body dies. And by the time if you're lucky, if you hit 12, before your atoms start to collapse underneath you because of this system. And this is why we die here. And it starts very early with the chemical changes that progressively become irreparable. So, fortunately, I really hope that there are some of us, even if we don't get a chance to, because we can really burn ourselves out really fast by bringing the lines in like we do and doing these kind of workshops. I know it's hard sitting there and being tired, but you should try having to work all day and or all night on getting the information down, like focus like this, have to get all these little details, and then come down and have to present it. You know what I mean? I mean, you could do a bit of burnout, but I'm really not allowed to burn out. I just collapse and cry at home when I'm exhausted and overwhelmed, and then get back up and do it again. But hopefully we're getting a little bit of assistance. One of the things that they want us to see before that we worry about the lines are going to be changing back to their natural order, and the new sets are opening up. One of the biggest things about the other alignment was there is the set of the lines 11 and 12. Remember how they were twisted at the core, around the core? They're not supposed to be. That was holding the haras, so only certain levels of frequency could get through, and that is opening up. So 11 and 12 are going to come back online in a natural Olurian chamber pattern. But these shields, you have your density 1 shield, you have your density 1 shield, your ethos shield, density 2 shield, and your density 3 shield, and then way up on top of your Cathara grid, you'd have your density 4 shield. Each one of them, it's at a different angle, right? We went through the shield stuff a while back, so I'd have to trace each one of them to see which angle it was at in relation to the other, to see which part of which line was carrying what. But there's probably a dominant one, right, that you could say, okay, let's just say this one mostly runs 1. So we're working on getting those in. But the most important thing they want us to know about this tonight is that we had talked about those celestialine suns that are a natural part, the density suns that separate the density levels, and when they open, which would be natural Adashi process, Adashi ascension process, it allows the flows from behind, from the Edens and from the Adons before that and from the core, to come up into the present where you are, and that amount of frequency allows you'd have enough quantum in your body to generate the light body activations and the spirit body activations for starfire. So what is holding? We talked about that there was several of those sea seals, as we called them, our sea suns, that in the larger structure of the light body and the Rasha body, they manifest in certain spots. One of them is here. C3 is here, and that has a mutation. And C4 is here. This is the one why people are coughing, because it's starting to release first. Yeah. And there is another one, C5 here, but C5, I believe, is not damaged. I think that is the one that goes with your Adashi 1 level, or your first level of Christ star. So what we need to do, see, if we try to activate Christ star and these are still here, it'll short circuit the entire body. That would kill the body. And that's why they have to progressively, it was done on purpose. The mutation has actually been done that if anybody tried to undo it, it would kill them before they got to the point where they could. And the part where they could was the part where somebody could get it down how to do it. You get that far, and then you have a heck of a chance. At this point, we have a host shield activated here, which means when you use these technologies, you will not get hurt by them. They will not hurt you. You are already being hurt. I mean, unless you're looking forward to, like, you know, becoming an angel someday soon or something, there isn't anybody else teaching really how to get your body out of here. So people die here all the time. It's considered natural. We're telling you that it isn't natural. We're not going to tell you how to do technologies that are going to expedite that process. We're going to teach you how to use technologies that will, even if you don't get to fully reverse mutate yourself this time, and your body still gets the best of you at some age, hopefully a ripe old one like 500. No, 223 is good as far as here. But the ones that were targeted were the ones that would have the codes that would stand at the center of shields. Speakers. Because we're the ones that would run the blue, the gold, and the violets. The people who are the ones who have the coding that can stand in the center of a host shield. They are the ones that had the self-sabotage, crash and burn code. Go ahead, try to activate that, and you will die, because we're not going to let you activate that shield of people so you can heal them and get them out. So most people don't have to worry about this. This is why we will sometimes get, I get swelling like this in my knees, sometimes not that big, but, really bad, as gets the backaches, and we get the headaches. Not all the time. It's only in cycles, and the biggest annoyance is when you get the heat blasts, right? It's like sweater on, sweater off, sweater on, sweater off. It doesn't matter what temperature the room is. Now that's normal. That's the heat's coming in, and the heat is actually from transmuting stuff that doesn't belong in there. So that doesn't really bother us too much. It just gets to be a nuisance when you have to do it with not enough sleep and all day and all night transmission and things. So you don't need to be afraid of the technologies here. We've explained that all along, that they work in natural harmony with your natural spirit body, natural light body. And the only thing unnatural in that whole process is the fact that your atomic body is carrying a mutation right now. And you do have the power, and now you have the support on this planet. And I don't mean, me and Az directly. I mean the whole host mission is holding the frequencies on the planet that you can create the support in your body that you need to begin these processes. And they're gentle processes. Right now they're journeys and tones. And that's where we're going to move, because that is next. Because that is the next and most important thing that needs to be done, is the finishing of the journey that you did. These tones, again, correspond to the, first of all, the names of the Jaleesic layers are rings and spans in the Rasha body, so it will activate the Rasha body in a natural way. And they correspond also, the other set correspond to the first parts of the Jeshua code, where they are literally the names which are the vibrational core resonance of the gate sets that go with the Aquinos matrix, which is the natural Aquinos Andromeda M31. The interface ones that are in the Aquiel matrix, and the natural ones, the Christic ones that are here. And when you use those in combination, it doesn't take too long, it activates the rest of it. And what they're saying, if you're still awake enough to want to do the Iridanus exercise, which I think some people probably will, because I know some of you guys, especially when people who are used to us, have done like them at 8 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, because we're still there. We're not going to do that tonight. I'm not going to do that to you. I did keep you longer than I promised, because I've been trying to, we've been really trying to keep the schedule somewhere near it. This is better than we've done in years, just so you know. So there's one more as far as keeping anywhere near what resembled a humane schedule. But there are the tones, and then there is the journey. I am going to sign off, I believe. I don't think there's anything absolutely vital to keep people here even longer. But there's a huge amount more. As you saw, I had to really chop that sequence and just give you the most important things. Everything is filled with detail in this paradigm. They leave no stone unturned, no T uncrossed, no I undotted. Anyway, I would just like to tell you that it was really lovely being here, because I'm going to go when Az is running these things, and because I have some stuff I have to finish upstairs, and then maybe get a bath. But it's been lovely being with you. I hope you've enjoyed the workshop. So I'm going to say my goodbyes a little bit early, because I won't be back down. I hope the little chat I had in the beginning and in the orientation about images of self, about if you have ideologies that are giving you false information that make you feel small and give you a false idea about who you are, what you are, we end up with these distorted images of self. I hope this workshop has in some way helped you to find the joy that is really yours, because you are a blessed individual that was created in the name of Source, with the words and the vibration of Source. You are walking around in Source. Source is with you. Yeah, we have a little challenge here as far as doing some reverse mutation of a very old DNA problem. But aside from that, you have an Lumeradonna body. I'm sorry, sometimes when my brain goes too fast and I'm this tired, my lips don't keep up. And sometimes it's just the words, I have a hard time saying them. But I look at you guys, and I hope you can feel what I feel. Every time they give me a new piece of the information, it's like, it's so worth it, even though I'm exhausted trying to take it down and those kind of things. I would never, ever stop that part. I've thought about stopping the public level and wait until we could get it into a book, that kind of stuff, but that's not going to help people now. And that's why we do the workshops, and sometimes they run on Guardian time. This wasn't too bad. It was like a happy medium between normal time and Guardian time. So I hope the people that, I promised that you would be out of here by 8:30. I hope you're not too upset, but I'm glad you stayed if you're still here. So I'm going to say goodnight and stop babbling. And it was lovely to be here, and I don't know what else to say except I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll hand you over to the Grid Master as... What is it? I don't know what that means.
Pick it up, come on. I'm encouraging them. Stop now. I was only encouraging you to try and embarrass her a little bit, just have some fun. No one's ever stood up and clapped her like that, She can't take it very well. This thing about receiving love, the thing that we don't talk about, receiving love, but you just did.
I couldn't hear you.
What?
I didn't hear what you said.
Nothing.
I'll see you later. I'm going to go work on my knee.
Now, quickly, is there a need to get body parts comfortable? Real quick. 10 minutes. I'm very conscious, not self-conscious, but very conscious that we're not going to be sending you towards your beds until after midnight. But another 10 minutes is neither here nor there. So 10 minutes, get comfortable, and we'll hit the ground running. Before we begin, but with an eye on time and common decency, since we had no intention whatsoever of sending you home or back to your beds after midnight tonight, there is something, though, that I want to do just quickly. And I hope I don't lose anything by forcing myself to be more brief than I could be. And what that is about is to put together a particular thank you. And the story goes somewhat like this. Never in our time together, Ash and I, have we ever done anything but trust the organic proliferation of the material on its own merit. In other words, we've never marketed ourselves, we've never done anything that even approaches marketing or promotion ever since we've worked together. That's for 7 years now. However, there is one exception for which I will not apologize. But this leads to my thank you. I can't remember exactly, and Mac isn't here, so I can't ask her. But about 3.5 years ago, I shared with her a feeling I had that at that time was based on a kind of bias, you might call it, or the fact that I'd recognized in myself that I had a particular resonance with the shields, the personal shields of anyone that was from Southern Ireland or anyone that was from Holland. And I confessed this when I was talking to her and said, look, I have this kind of inclination to people from these two places, and I don't understand what it is, but allow me to say that I want us to target Holland. And I said this to her 3.5 years ago. Well, at that period of time, we were trying to get the European office established in England. That was Ash and I and Jane Wood. And Rose and Noel Tobin were running the office in Ireland, and Mac was trying to stabilise the American office because she'd taken that over when we left Sarasota and came to England. It wasn't an immediate thing. Cathara team was in its very, very early stages. All right. But it was as a result of that conversation and the persistent feeling I was having about needing to bring the work, to show the work to the Dutch people, that from time to time meant that I raised the question with Mac, and eventually, when Cathara team had started to develop a little bit, and early confidence had grown, that then we involved Rose and Noel in conversation about it, and this is where the thank you comes in. There are a great many people nowadays who've stepped up to the plate and actually helped to make life pleasant for Ashley by doing so many things that support the quote-unquote cause. And I'm making an exception because, generally speaking, I don't single out people for special thanks or praise, but it needs to be acknowledged that for whatever reason I had for feeling the need to connect with Holland, and now we all understand, we all have a shared understanding of why we needed to be in the situation we are in today, this weekend, and the work we've done. I have to acknowledge, though, that were it not for the care, the enthusiasm, the competence, and everything else that goes with that around Mac, Rose and Noel Tobin and the Cathara team people, this connection would never have been made at all, or as strongly as was necessary for us to one day meet. And to meet for the reasons we have. Move me more. Last weekend's 12 tribes did the same thing. I've never seen people cry during a stand, but it was... Anyway, this event is even more significant than that. Last weekend, if you don't know, 25 of us saw off the Procyon death seal, basically, and there isn't time to explain what that's about. But had that not happened, had not the opening of the Illyrian chambers happened last weekend, had not the initial anchoring to the Aquiferian shield of the Jeshua codes happened last weekend as a precursor to seeing the Procyon death seal off and out of our shield, out of the collective anatomy, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And the work that those guys did was so incredibly powerful and moving. A half of the people that performed the stand finished the stand with tears just rolling down. Anyway, what are we going to do now? Anyway, the moral of that story was just to highlight our gratitude on behalf of all of us for the work was done that has brought us all together this weekend, in a nutshell. And thank you very much to all those people that go day in, day out unsung, just working the cause and moving it forward. And I apologize for targeting the Dutch, but you're so sweet. Now then, just a couple of points of clarification before we use this material. If you can just look, pick up the sheet, the horizontal sheet that says command tones of the Jeshua code, which is how it should be termed. There are just a couple of things on here I need to point out to you. There are two places where the beloveds were telling us that we needed to incorporate a capital I, which is a very unusual letter. If you look at item 8 on the right-hand side, it looks like Ola. That is a capital I. Yeah, it's Araya. And there is one other place where there's another capital I. On line, where it begins on the left, 4 density Jaya sons. That's not Jala, it's Jaya. On the left-hand side, where it says 4 density Jaya sons, it's not Jala, it's Jaya. Okay. And then that... Sorry? In the middle of the page on the left-hand side, it begins with 4 density. Go to the left-hand side, begin to read 4 density, and that is Jaya, it's not Jala. So if you see a tall, like an L with a horizontal dash over the top, that's a capital A, the way we're treating the spelling. The other thing that needs to be acknowledged publicly is that when we first encountered this, we weren't altogether sure how to pronounce it. And the pronunciation that was used at 12 Tribes last weekend is not the correct one. Okay? We both felt certain that would give you like an Ariya sound. And in fact, it should be a flat I, Ariya. So what I'm telling you now, what I'm clarifying now is correct. And for the public record, there are 24 people out of 12 Tribes 8 who think that item 8 should be pronounced Ariya. And we'll just put that into the works and allow it to come out the correct way. And there are 220 people now know how to say that word particularly. All right, that's the only one of that nature on the entire page, okay? But I've shown you where the possible misunderstanding. So then, if you go across the page to the right-hand column that begins 4 density Jaya sons, and you look underneath density 1 ethos, there is a natural lowercase l, which would be the cause of confusion. That is al meos. That's not a capital I. Underneath altara, that is not a capital I. Okay? As far as the activations that relate to the Keepers of the Crystal Core, which is what we've done so far today, the activation oblique anchoring process will be completed with the performance of one full round of the ring and the span tones, and I'll just run through that in a second, followed by 3 rounds of the command tones. Now, since I'm on command tones, I'll stay with it. Now, when we express these tones, when we use these codes, I want to remind you that the way that you articulate it from the Christic sentiment, the feeling, right, is equivalent to the way you would state, I am this, I am. You would use loving emphasis. I don't want us to do this without the kind of passion that Group 8 built into a critical stand last weekend. I don't want you to cry, but I do want you to connect with that kind of urgent but gentle passion that when you articulate these are commands. All right? It's not like, open the bloody door, at all. It is, I am here, in parentheses, aware of myself and willing to accept responsibility for that which I now request. But you're doing it with a passion and a commitment. So you'd expect to feel the way that you express yourself when you use these command tones. There's nothing disrespectful whatsoever in using your voice without becoming strident, but being assertive from a Christic perspective. If you want this, ask for it. All right? And I'll leave it to you. And I want you to express yourselves. We'll do it all at the same time, but I don't want you to sound like a drone well rehearsed. I want to feel your individuality coming. And I want to enjoy the benefit of watching the shield radiate with all of the wonderful intermingling consequences of the frequencies you bring to the statement of the commands. Right? Because it is in that way that you, as it were, individual expressions, create this wonderful, wonderful presence, which we call an Aquiferian shield. All right? So Van Gogh has got nothing on you guys if you do this in the way that I'm trying to encourage you to do it. All right? Now, for that reason, I'm going to take a risk with the command tones, and I'm not going to rehearse you. Is there a sense that you'd rather we did? There needs to be a majority. No, it's a minority. You see, there's an interesting difference that crops up, and I understand and wholly respect why people sometimes approach us with questions that reflect a deep and sincere desire to do it right, whatever the occasion is. Okay? Now, I'm not contradicting myself or being inconsistent when I say I respect that deeply. I do. But I'm not in the business of supporting clone creation. I'm in the business of encouraging Christic self-expression. And that means that there are variations in the forms within parameters. And if you allow that creativity to exist, you will create something far, far larger and more substantial, and far more colorful, and far more influential, and far more independent, and far more and genuinely self-empowered. Not bullshit self-empowerment, like I am in my power. You don't need to make a statement like that if you truly are in your power. You just feel it. And you can radiate it from your eyes if you need to get into engagements with anyone or anything. So I'm trying to encourage you to think about combining the principles. If you seriously don't want to take risks, and you're not at risk if you do allow yourself the freedom to engage with these codes just like that. You've seen them for the first time, go for it, do it. All right? The kind of, yeah, all right, okay. Can I say it a different way? All right, I can try, fine. My understanding of those who offer us guidance are themselves brave people, and they would prefer to have it said with a lowercase p for pride. They are proud of the freedoms that they stand for. And so, yeah, it's not inappropriate for me to encourage you to think on similar lines, but it's tricky to get it right. And that was why Ma actually interrupted me, because I was about to say something that wouldn't necessarily be taken to convey that sentiment as clearly as they would like me to. Some of you would have got it all right, but others might not have done. Some of you get my jokes, which are their jokes, by the way, and some don't like it. Never mind. Ringtones and spantones. How many people are in the room that have never seen these before? Too many. Okay. Now then, this is not compromise for the heck of it. It's just that. We can let you fly a little bit at the command tones and allow that little bit of childlike joy to come out. But the framework and that relates to the Rasha element is not a thing I want to take a risk with. And if we get this one tight or tighter, i.e. a little bit of rehearsal, just a little bit, then that will set the framework, and that will enable then. It's like creating a stage for artists to appear. And if the stage managers have got the lighting right and the props and everything else put in the right place in a safe way, the artists can appear and really go to town. So we will take the ringtone span tones as our stage setting part, and we will allow the command tones to be an expression of our self-love, our joy, and our unabiding intention to finish the job we started earlier today. And then we can get into the completion of the journeys, which are related, but not in a... They're not closely linked to what we're doing now. This is the completion. The journey is an extension of other work that you've been doing, particularly if you haven't done any of the journeys before. All right. So if we turn our attention to the lighter page, the up and down one, this one, that has ringtones and spantones, listed on them. There are two columns on this piece of paper, clearly marked. On the left-hand side at the top it says ringtones. Okay? Now, the column of words, yamu, the word that looks like komu, which is pronounced kamu, kemu, shamu, and shemu, they are all known as prefixes. So to perform one round of the ringtones and spantones means that you begin every round with one prefix, which would be yamu to begin with. And one round goes like this. Yamu nadata'o, yamu adama maja, yamu jafa inaka, yamu daura, yamu idasha, yamu jadala, yamu kathara, yamu ariya ekra e rathathaka. So you have to say that one quite quick to maintain the rhythm, otherwise you trip over your tongue if you don't. Yamu kalata jada, yamu lasha jada ida, yamu shara ida dao, yamu raka dao jafa, yamu kama jafa adama, yamu mata adama nada. That is one round. Now, round number 2, you go to the next prefix, which is the word that looks like komu, C-O-M-U, right? So you begin round 2, kamu is the way you say it, kamu, and then nada, ta'ur, adama, maja, kamu, jafa, inaka. So then you go down the column again, up to the top right and down to the bottom. So you do exactly the same thing over, just using a different prefix. So then the third round would go to kemu, and then we go kemu, nada, ta'ur, and so on. And having completed the 2 columns, we go and get shamu, and we would do the 2 columns over. And then finally and lastly, shemu. And then we go down the 2 columns once more. Now, that is one complete round of the ringtones and span tones. Okay? Now, is anybody uncomfortable about how a particular line or word sounds on this list? Everybody fairly happy? I mean, there are a lot of people that are experienced in the room, and that will help. Just set the general, the sound for each of the lines. Because when we perform the ring and the span tones, it goes from the ridiculous to the sublime. Because we begin like a donkey and we finish like a greyhound. You know? I mean, in terms of the rhythm, because every time we do a round, it gets quicker. The next time is quicker, the next time is quicker, the next time is quicker, and the last one is really quite quick. And if you don't have a ready supply of water, you can find your tongue is finding parts of your mouth that you never knew existed. You know, really. It can get a bit tricky. And everyone makes trips over from time to time, just because of a dry mouth or whatever. It doesn't matter, not to worry. There's so much of it getting it right in the room that if you drop one here or there, please don't think you're letting the side down, because you can't possibly do that. The great majority will have everything working lickety-split. So, we will perform our completion. And we will go straight out on a count of 3 so that we can just get ourselves a little synchronized. The first round, beginning yamu, we'll set that at a moderate speed. We're not going to go too quickly right away. There'll be nowhere to go by the time we get to shemu anyway, if we did. All right. 1, 2, 3. Yamu nada ta'ur. Yamu adama maja, yamu jafa inaka, yamu daura, yamu idasha, yamu jadala, yamu katara, yamu ariya ekra e rathatara, yamu kalata jada, yamu lasha jada ida, yamu shara ida dao, yamu raka dao jafa, yamu kama jafa adama. Nada. Just a little bit quicker now. Kamu nada ta'ur. Kamu adama maja. Kamu jafa inaka. Kamu daura. Kamu idasha. Kamu jadala. Kamu katara. Kamu ariya ekra e rathathaka. Kamu kala tajada. Kamu lasha jada ida. Kamu shara ida dao. Kamu raka dao jafa. Kamu kama jafa adama. Kamu mata adama nada. Kemu now, and that's a little quicker again. Kemu nada ta'u. Kemu adama. Kemu jafa inaka. Kemu daura. Kemu idasha. Kemu jadala. Kemu katara. Kemu ariya And faster again with Shemu. Shemu. Shemu Idasha, Shemu Jadala, Shemu Katara, Shemu Aria Ekra E, Rathathaka, Shemu Idaka, Shamu Ida, Shamu Jara Dadao, Shamu Raka Daryapa, Shama Kama Jafa Adama, Shama Mata Adama Nada. Shemu Adama Maja, Shemu Jafa Inaka, Shemu Dara, Shemu And we go straight on now. And what we do here are 3 rounds. We're working the left-hand column, the 12 galactic Jaya suns, numbers 1 through 12. And what we do is we repeat 1 to 12 in sequence 3 times. When we've done that, we move to the section below, which are the 4 density Jaya suns. And there are 4 lines there. We repeat those 4 lines 3 times. We move up to the group of 12 on the right-hand column. We repeat 1 through 12 3 times, and then go to the 4 immediately below. Repeat those 3 times, and we're finished. Okay? Sorry? I'm sorry, I don't hear. What? No, they're not. We don't use those in this. I mean, that is descriptive. It's not a command code. All right, so in your own way, we will up the tempo a little bit through the three rounds, but not as much as in the ringtones and spantones style. All right, on 3 then. 1, 2, 3. Anteus, Arcelon, Erta, Salameia, Alceus Intara, Sala Sira, Itura, Oshina, Androme, Aveja, Avena, Aramala, Anteus, Arcelon, Erta, Salamea, Alceus Entara, Sala Sira, Itura, Oshina, Androme, Aveja, Avena, Aramala, Anteus, Arcelon, Erta, Salamea, Alceus Entara, Salasira, Itura, Oshina, Androme, Aveja, Anavena, Aramala. Go on straight away. Alzeata, Alteus, Proceus, Proceta. Alzeata, Alteus, Proceus, Proceta. Alzeata, Alteus, Proceus, Proceta. Top right. Antares, Iratus, Shala, Salamera, Alceus, Antara, Sira, Artura, Aurea, Andramamira, Avija, Avina, Arama, Antares, Iradus, Shala, Salamira, Alceus, Antara, Sira, Artura, Aurea, Andramamira, Avija, Avina, Arama, Antares, Iradus, Shala, Salamira, Alceus, Antara, Sira, Artura, Aurea, Andramamira, Avija, Avina, Arama, and down to the 4 below. Almeus, Altara, Prolara, Prociris. Almeus, Altara, Prolara, Prociris. Almeus, Altara, Prolara, Proceus. Beautifully done, and thank you. Good job.